Well, hello, Grace Free family. It's good to see you once again. I want to bring to you an announcement of where we are at as a church, how we're going to continue to move forward, and what that means for the public gathering of the saints. Many of us have questions as we've been getting, the dials have been turning slowly in our state, what that means for our church and our gathering. There are different opinions on this whole issue with the COVID-19 restrictions. It was said best in our elder meeting. There are some people who see this as an issue with our governor and our government. Some people just see this as an issue of the virus and they're afraid of the virus. Some people are more terrified of what the government's doing. But I think it's safe to say all of us are having a tough time as we continue to move forward or try to move forward with the quarantines and the restrictions that are happening in our community. So what do we do about it? What are we going to do about it? Well, last Tuesday, our board met and came up with a plan, and we actually made a video to share with you, and then we got some more information from our government, and that plan changed again. And so here we're going to let you know what's kind of happening going forward with our church. And I want you to know what we're wrestling with. We're wrestling with a couple different things. We're wrestling with people who are passionate, who want to come together, and want to fellowship. They want to have that sweet gathering of the saints that we're so used to and love so much. And that's a good, godly desire. On the same time, we're wrestling with the biblical mandate and commandments for us to be submissive to our authority. And how do we do that? And yet we want this gathering. I want to read for you from 1 Peter 2, 13 through 17. It says this: "Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as supreme or to governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. Live as people who are free, not using your freedom as a cover-up for evil, but as living as servants of God. Honor everyone, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor." And that's what the board has been wrestling with. How do we fear God? How do we do the things that God has called us to do? One of those being honoring those, submitting to those in authority over us. And so because of that, we wanted that to guide our decisions going forward. And so the board has decided that we want to follow the recommendations that are being given to us from our government, from the Minnesota Department of Health, and from the governor's office. And so we have a three-phased plan of how we're going to hopefully get back to gathering together at the church. The first phase is that we're going to have groups of 10 or less that begin to gather once again starting May 31st. That means that we might have a small group of people here on Sunday who will help us prepare for what kind of precautions we could do for when we get a larger group of people back here together. But for the most part, that's going to open up doors for groups to come in at the church using some good precautions and social distancing guidelines to begin to gather together here at the church building. During this next phase, though, we really want to encourage people who feel safe to do so, that you would gather in small groups for Bible studies. You would say, hey, we're encouraged, we're told we can get in groups of 10 or less, so let's use that to Bible study. On Sunday mornings, we want to encourage you to gather in homes as you feel comfortable to watch the service together that we're going to be streaming on Facebook, and that the church would move forward in this next phase to gather in small groups. You know, we were supposed to gather. We want a fellowship. The Bible doesn't say we have to all be together. And so we feel like this is a good thing. We can continue to be the church more true to what the Scriptures have commanded us to be in this next phase. And it's going to be scattered, but yet we can still be together and worship together. After that, we know the next phase is going to be a little larger gatherings. We had some ideas what that might look like. We got new information, and that it's going to go from 10 or less indoors at the church to 20 or less indoors, but 100 or less outdoors. And so we're going to begin having conversations about that next phase. Once the dial is turned again, of having maybe some outdoor services, getting people together in larger groups, being cautious, being safe, but we are looking forward to those, trying to dream up ways we can get a larger group, maybe not the entirety of the church, but a larger group together on Sundays. And then it would also open the door for indoor kind of meetings to be at 20 or less here in the church. And then the third phase is we predict that what the next thing will happen when we turn the dial is we'll get to where we can mostly have capacity, not very many numerical restrictions in the church, and then we can begin to slowly ease up on some of the precautions that we're going to take as we begin to get past this virus in the months to follow. We don't know the dates for phases 2 and 3. We don't have all the details for those 2 phases. We are eagerly desiring to move forward into those as soon as we possibly can. But we have decided that May 31st, that Sunday, is going to be the start of our phase 1, where we're going to start encouraging groups of 10 or more to get together in different ways to worship as we feel safe to do so. And so, church, this is our plan going forward. It's fluid, like everything else in these times. We know that our governor and the Minnesota Department of Health can adjust the dial both ways. We are hopeful that it continues to move forward, that we can safely gather and worship together here in this room. But we want to continue to be submissive and good citizens along the way during this process. I want to read to you a passage from Philippians, and I hope we capture the heart of this. Paul, who is writing this, we believe, from Rome, and he is in a Roman prison for 2 years. He has been in a prison in Caesarea for 2 years, so he's probably in about year 3 of being imprisoned for, in essence, nothing. But this is what he says. I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel, so that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard and to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ. And most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. I want to encourage us. I know this has been difficult. I know we desire to get together, and I know some of us want to just throw off all of the recommendations and just meet anyway, and the board has decided we're not sure we can do that. We're not sure that's biblically what we ought to be doing. But I also want to encourage you in this time that this is not a lost cause, that your time at home has not been a lost cause, that God is going to redeem it and use it. We believe that very much. We want to have the same heart as this Philippians chapter 1 here, where Paul can say, hey, I've lost 3 years of my life to prison, but it was actually for the advancement of the gospel. We have people in Arizona. We have people in Milwaukee. We've had people in Rwanda. We've had people in Ireland. We have people all around the state who have been watching the message of Jesus through this little church. And that's happening to all kinds of churches. And so, well, church, I agree this is not ideal. We desire to get to this 3rd phase where we have everyone here together. I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that I believe that God is using this for the advancement of the gospel, and that more people are getting to hear the message of Jesus because of it. And for this, I rejoice. I do not rejoice that we cannot see you face to face, but I do rejoice that I believe God is using this time. And I would ask for your patience and your grace, that you would rejoice with me for all that God's doing, even in the midst of our momentary struggles and trials. God bless.